Hi guys, it's Heather with Running with Scissors, and today we are going to do the tutorial for your March subscription box. That's box number 28, and it is the string art watering can, which you may have seen in the opening of this video. So let's see what's in the box. All right, as always, you'll have your instruction sheet, and you'll notice, once again, no picture up here yet because we are going to put the picture of the actual project that we do on the tutorial into this space here. So we have to wait till that's done. Your instructions are rather long this time around because we have some detailed instructions on making felt flowers that you saw in the opening there. You are also going to have a paper template. So notice that your template has a lot of holes cut out of it, and it's white, but on the other side there's printed paper. This is the wrong side. Okay, we're gonna just use the white side because you can see the holes a lot clearer than you can see them through the printed side. All right, and then we have this little diagram here, and this is the diagram showing you what the actual watering can and the water spray looks like, which seems kind of weird to put this in, but it does make a little bit of sense when you start to string. You'll want to be able to reference this. And then we also have the board. This is the pine board in which you are going to push your nails into. And then you have a cup of paint, and then you have a bag of goodies. So let's see what's all in this bag of goodies. There's a lot in this bag. Your bag is just a small bag. I just threw all mine into a big bag. So you have your cup of nails that you're going to need. You have a sponge to paint with. You have several pieces of felt. You have 2 bobbins of darker blue embroidery floss or embroidery thread. That's what we're going to use for the watering can portion. And then you have a shade of watercolor for the water coming out of the spout. You have a couple of hot glue sticks. You have a clear pen casing, and that is your string art tool. You have a toothpick. You have a piece of wire, and then you have a pearl. All right, so for most of this, we're gonna just set this aside for the moment. We are gonna keep out our toothpick and our sponge to paint with. Everything else we're gonna just set away for a little bit, and we'll get back to that in a minute. So for your stencil, you will notice that some of the dots may not all be punched out, and you can just take your toothpick and push those the rest of the way out. As long as you can see the hole, it does not matter if the dots are completely removed. Okay, so you can do that to get that ready. Now, you probably seen on the instruction sheet, or we also put it on Facebook, that you are going to need a hammer and a pair of needle nose pliers. Also have a hot glue gun and scissors handy, and of course baby wipes are always handy. So we use the stubby hammers because they're easier to control, but certainly any kind of hammer is just fine. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint our board. We're going to use the soft side of the yellow sponge and the paint, and we're going to give this 2 coats of paint. Make sure that the first coat is dry completely before you put the second coat on, or otherwise you'll just be pulling off half dry paint. So just like this, we're going to use that soft side of that yellow sponge, and we're just going to wipe our paint onto our board, and we're going to want to make sure that we get the edges as well. All right, so tip your board up and get your edges. Okay, our first coat is dry, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our second coat on. Okay, now that our second coat of our paint is dry, we're going to put our stencil on our board. So we want to place the stencil in the upper left-hand corner. So we want to match up the top of the stencil with the top of the board and the left edge of the stencil with the left edge of the board. Because what we want to make sure is that we're leaving enough room over here for our felt flowers. So if you want to tip your stencil a little bit, you can do that as well. The main thing to focus on is that you leave enough room in this lower right-hand corner for your felt flowers to go, all right? If you want, you can place some tape on this to tape your stencil down, but I'm just going to go ahead and position it in place there without taping it down. You're going to want to grab your nails and your hammer and your pliers, and we're going to work along this inner D part of the handle first. We're going to get that filled in. Remember to make sure that you've poked out all of your holes here. They don't need to be disconnected, but you want to make sure that you aren't going to drive your nail through the paper. All right. So we're going to work on this inner D first because it's easier to work from the inside out. Now, I'm going to tell you, you may get frustrated a little bit when you are first learning to string art. There's no right or wrong with string art, especially when you're starting out. Of course, you can always have beautiful patterns and everything, but those are mostly reserved for like a square or a heart or something like that, not the shape of a watering can. If you're familiar with string art and you want to get fancy, you can always put a heart set shape of nails in the center of your watering can here. That will add a little bit of more nails in the center and things that you can do with your string art when you begin to string. But for most of us, this would be a beginner project, so we're just going to stay simple on it. So once again, we're going to start in the middle and work out. Now you're going to place your nail in the tip of your plier and you're going to hold on to it just like that. And you are going to put the nail in the middle of the cutout hole, hold on to it with your plier, and you're just going to hammer down. Now, I like to, when I first start, use my plier as a gauge of how deep my nail goes. So all of my other nails are the same depth. That's what we want to try to focus on, is getting our nails straight and all at about the same depth. But it takes a few nails to get that practice. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to just pound this nail in. I know that it's going to take me about 4 hits with the hammer at about the same force to get my nail in as deep as I want to go. And for me, I'm using the width of my plier at this point here. So right at the middle, where it becomes the grippy part of the plier, that last point there, the thickness of that. So I grab my nail with my plier and I can see that my nail is just sticking out from the top there, and that is a perfect thickness or depth of my nail driven. So I'm going to aim for all of my nails to be driven at that depth. All right. So once again, I'm just going to grab a nail with my plier and I'm going to come right next to it and drive it down. All right. And then you're just going to do this 104 times. There are 104 holes on this watering can. 104. And work in a steady line. Try not to jump all over the place because it is hard to go back and fit a nail in between two. Okay, just like that. Let's see if I can get this just a little bit closer for you. And now I'm going to work through all of my nails, but I will speed it up. And of course, feel free to stop the video and then come back to it when you are ready to remove the stencil. All right, there are all of my nails, and that took me about 20 minutes, just slightly less to do. I pound about 100 nails every 15 minutes or so. So it will probably take you a little bit longer, but don't stress it. Take as long as you need to get it done. Now what I'm going to go and do is I'm just going to make sure that all my nails are as straight as they can be without making them loose by straightening them, okay? I can just see that I got a little cricket on some, so I'm just going to straighten those up. And I just straighten those with my pliers. Now another thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my nails are, for the most part, all about level. So if I have some that I didn't pound all the way down, or maybe I just got quick and moved on too rapidly, I just want to go and I want to just make sure that those are down far enough, which maybe just over here. All right, so now we're going to take off of our template. And you may be able to lift it straight off, but probably not. So we're just going to tear it away and then just gently lift it over the heads of the nails. We don't want to yank too hard on it because we don't want to pull our nails out. So we're just going to tear it into strips and gently lift that off of the nail heads. Right. Shake off any of the dots that remain, and you might be able to see a little bit better whether or not you have any nails that need to be straightened up at this point. All right, so now we are ready to string. So in order to string, we're going to need our blue bobbins and our clear pen casing. And we're going to start just with the first bobbin of blue, and we're going to drop that string down through the clear pen casing so the head of it comes out where the pen tapers at the end. And then we're going to take this end and we're going to slip it over the head of one of the nails. I'm going to start in the corner of the watering can, and we're going to tie a double knot in that. And it's okay to leave your tail. We'll trim all the tails when we're all done. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hold the bobbin in one hand and the pen in the other. You'll have to decide what's more comfortable for you and how you want to do that. But we want to keep our bobbin thread taut, and we're going to use our hand and our pen to string the string around the nail heads and to fill in this watering can. Now, I was talking earlier, if you are familiar with string art and feeling brave, you could make a heart out of nails in the middle. I don't know that you'll have enough left over, but you can get some finishing nails like this at Home Depot. Now, if you put a heart in the middle here, it would give you more areas to string your string to loop around, all right? But because this is basically a beginner project, we're going to keep it simple. Putting a small heart in the center would be a little bit difficult for some people. I'm going to straighten this nail just a bit. Okay, so here we go. And we are just going to string. Now you can do up and down, side to side, diagonal, back and forth. You can mix it all up and go crazy. You're going to have to do this a lot because you have a lot to fill in here. I'm not going to hit every single nail working straight across. Again, there's no right or wrong, so you can do it however you want to. Now, eventually I will hit every nail, but for now, I'm just going to string it. Just to hit whatever nails I hit, and I'm going to just work my way till I start filling this in. All right, and you can see how I'm guiding the pen casing around the heads of the nail. It is a lot easier to do this with a pen casing. Now, it does not matter how you wrap it around the head of the nail. Some people make a full turn around it. Some people just loop around the outside. That does not matter. But what you need to focus on is that you are stringing this outside edge of the watering can, not the handle right now, okay? So when we fill the handle in, we want to make sure we fill the handle in, but we don't want to grab any of the nails of that handle accidentally. So if you need to kind of look at the diagram and see what you're working with, then by all means do that. All right, so I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'm just gonna string, and we'll meet back here in 15 or 20 minutes and talk about where we go next. But in the meanwhile, just start stringing and filling this in as best as you can. And after we do the body of this, we will move on to the handle and then onto the spout. Now, one thing that you can do as well is if you're filling it in and you're having more difficulties wrapping around the edges of the nails because you've got some string on there, just come in here and push the string down a little bit to give yourself some more room to string. And in the end, we can always lift that all the way back up, but for now you can press it down. This is a great way to layer other colors in there. If you do other string art projects as well, you just push those down and then you can wrap other colors through there. Okay, so I have reached the end of my fill, and you can see that I took this string, I was over here and I went back across that way. And it's because I felt like I needed just a little bit more in that section. And this is a really good time for you to now look and see where you could fill in. So like I have a little bit of an empty spot right there, and I could bring my string down and wrap up and around this section here just to fill that in a little bit. I am at the end of my first bobbin, and that's okay with me because mine is full enough for me. If you want yours fuller, by all means, start your next bobbin. I am going to start my next bobbin to do my outline though, but because I've reached the end of my first bobbin and I feel like I am full enough, I'm just going to pick a nail and I'm going to tie off on it. I'm going to use up what little bit of string I have left here, which is just about a foot. So you'll see me wrap a couple more times in here, probably once or twice. And then I'm going to tie off on whatever nail I end on. So it just depends on how much you have left over here. Now, you don't have to use the whole bobbin if you don't want to. Of course, just pick a string or a nail, tie off on it, and then you can call it good. However, if you have plenty left on your bobbin, then there's no need to stop and tie off because we're going to do the border, and you may as well just continue to use the bobbin that you've started on. But because I'm at my end here, it just makes more sense to me. Okay, so there's my tie off, and I'm going to take my next bobbin and I'm going to thread it through my pen just like we did the first time. Remember, the end of the string goes down through the top of the barrel and it comes out where it narrows. Now, to wrap my border, I'm going to just tie off in a corner again, and I'm going to make it my way all the way around, and I should only have to tie off when I begin and when I end. Now, if you have to, remember what we talked about in the beginning, you can push these threads down so you can get to the head of the nail, and so that you are able to do a border around your watering can. Now, if you want, you can just hold off a minute. Maybe you won't want to do a border. You will see what it starts to look like once I do it. I think a border really does give it a final defining shape though. So for me, a border is a great idea. All right, so there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can be very simple and you can grab the first nail and you can go back around. Okay, the first nail past where you've tied your tail on, okay, where you've tied on it. You can grab that one, go around the head and back around that nail that you tied the head on and come forward to the third one, go back to the second one, wrap, and then just keep repeating, all right? That's a fine border. Now you can also, let's see, let me move the camera down just a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit better. Okay, so that's one way. Now another way to give it even a more defined border would be to do a figure 8 between the two nails. So starting where I'm at now, I would cross over. So right now I'm on the outside edge of the nail and I'm going to cross over to the inside edge of the next nail. I'm going to wrap around it. I'm going to cross over again to the inside edge of that first nail and then back up. And I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to go to the inside of that next nail and then back to the inside of the nail in the back. And then I'm going to come forward again. And you're just going to keep repeating this over and over again. Whichever method you decide to do, it's up to you. You can do the easy wrap or you can do the figure 8 between the two nails. It does give a slightly different look to it when you do the figure 8. It's a little bit more defined than it is if you just do a straight. But again, that's up to you. Now, if you want a thicker defined border, wrap your string multiple times around the edge of the nail. You can see right there, I did 2 or 3 wraps, and you can definitely see that it is much more defined. Which I like a defined border, so I'm gonna wrap mine twice. And you'll notice that I stopped doing the zigzag, the figure 8 there. I'm just going to do the wrap. And now one thing you may have noticed is that my nails might not be the same, the heads on my nails might not be the same as yours. And that's because they could not fill our entire order because we needed so many nails. They ended up giving us some with different heads on them, which is fine. They both work either way. So some of you might have a larger, flatter head and some of you might have a shorter domed head. Okay, so you can see I got to my handle. Now this is the part where the diagram might come in handy because you want to make sure that you are only going on the outside edge of your handle here first. Yes, we have to do the inside, but first we're going to do the outside, then we'll jump to the inside. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this up around the outside edge. Now if you have to push down the strands to get around the heads of the nails, make sure that you're doing that. And you can see that I sometimes lose my string and have to go back and repeat the stitch. And you can also see that I am pushing down the strands a little bit with my finger. If I didn't have them pushed down far enough, that's why I'm doing that. And then sometimes if I have like a stubborn turn, I may have to hold the strand down while I secure it on the next nail. Okay, so I've reached this end here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come across the handle and just pretend like that's just a straight string shot across, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my wraps of my loops of the inside part of the handle. Okay, so now I've reached the end of the inside, and I got to jump back to the outside. And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and let that string come across. This time I'm coming across on a diagonal, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm hiding the fact that I am jumping from one side to the other. I don't care that my string is crossing over. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the tension back on my strand, and I'm going to continue around the outside edge here. Okay, so now here I've gotten to the point where I have to come up the spout of the watering can. But if I go directly from the nail where I ended, I'm going to come across here and bring a string over where it doesn't belong. So instead I have to come back all the way down to that loop or to that nail at the section where the spout or the spigot comes out of and wrap around there, so I have a better starting point. And then I'm just going to go up the side. So I kind of got to do the same thing with this part right here, because if I jutted straight across, I would have string where string doesn't belong. Okay, and I've reached the end now. So now I'm going to take this string and I'm going to cut off a piece of it away from my bobbin, and I am going to tie off onto that end nail. And then I'm going to start the water. Just gonna trim these strands while I'm here. And if you want, you can put a little dot of hot glue on the knots if you're worried that you don't get your knots tight enough. So if your knots, you don't think you'll have them tight enough, you can go ahead and put a little dab of super glue on those knots. All right, and so now we're gonna start the water. So we're going to thread our pen tool the same way. We're going to be using our other color. Your color might not exactly match mine. And you're going to thread it down. And let it come out the end. And you can start either up closest to the spout, or you can start at the bottom, but you're going to work one row at a time. So it almost looks like a rainbow. You're going to start either the top or the mid or the bottom, but you're going to come all the way down one row at a time. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to grab. Okay, so you can see I tied on to the nail that is one away from the spout. I did not tie on to the same nail that I already have all this blue wrapped on because I thought it would be too difficult. But I still want to include that nail in my water wrap, okay? So now this is just like we did the border. You can do a figure 8 between them, or you can just do a straight wrap. I'm just going to do a straight wrap, and I'm going to wrap several times because I want a nice full looking water stream. Now you may have to push your strands down to do that. Let me try to get my hands out the way here. And so I'm doing 3 wraps around my strands or around my nails. And then I'm going to pull away from my pen tool a little bit of strand out, and I'm going to cut it off because I'm going to tie off at this point. I don't just want to start the next strand without tying off because then it will look like the water is connected, and I want it to look like it's flowing in a stream all by itself. So we're going to take the time just to go ahead and tie that off. All right, there we go. Jeez. And I'm going to trim that one close. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to tie onto that nail one away from the spout, the first nail that does not have any of the blue string on it. We're going to tie a double knot, and we're going to repeat this process. And my third and last water stream. Okay, so that's it for the string art portion of this. So now one last thing you might want to do is you might want to come back, and if you have any strands that are dropped really low on your nails, you might want to pull them up, or you may even want to push down to show more depth. That's totally up to you, and you can make it look all kinds of different ways by either varying the height of your string. So you can push some of it down so it's more of in the background and closer to the board, or you can pull it all up really high so it's all nice and tight to the top. You'll get a different look. You'll see this more when you use different colors instead of just one color. So that's up to you. Do what you want to do with that. But we are going to move on to making the felt flowers. So you're going to want to get your hot glue gun plugged in and get your fabric scissors ready. All right, so we are going to make 4 different felt flowers and some leaves. Your felt has been pre-cut for you, but you still will need your scissors to do the snipping of the flowers. Okay, so we have 3 strips here, and we are going to start with this peach colored one, the peach or the apricot colored one. And we are going to run a line of glue along one edge here, and then we are going to fold it in half and stick it to each other. Now, you may only want to run a glue about halfway or a third of the way. Hold that part down and then start another one. So let's get going. All right, so we're going to run a line of glue right along the edge. I'm only going about a third of the way. I'm going to fold that down and hold it. And then I'm going to do the next section. Again, about a third of the way. I'm going to fold it down and hold it. And remember not to get that hot glue on your fingers. Hot glue burns almost instantly, and those burns hurt for 24 hours. All right, that's our first one. I'm just gonna glue all of mine while I'm here. I'm not actually gluing the purple one. Put my glue on the top this time, but it's the same thing. You put it on the bottom. I don't even know why I reached for the top. Okay, and then we're going to take this purple one, and we're actually going to cut this right in half. So we want 2 purple strips. All right, so now we're going to take and we're going to fold this purple one in half now that it's narrower. So we're going to run a line of glue along the edge. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult, but you can do it. And you're going to want to do this with both pieces of the purple. Okay, so we are going to take the blue one, or the aqua colored one, and we are going to take the folded edge. So that's the folded edge, right? And that's going to be facing us. Okay, so this is facing you. The glued edge is pointed in the opposite direction of you. And we are going to snip with our scissors equal distances. So it's just shy of about a 1/4 inch. You don't have to measure, just make sure that you stay uniform. Now when we cut, we're only going to cut down to about the glue line. We want to leave that connected right there. So we're going to snip, and it will be easier if you just use the tips of your scissors and you have a nice sharp pair. Just snip right down to the glue, but don't snip all the way through. If you happen to snip all the way through, it's okay. We can still use it. Don't fret. And I will snip all the way through on one to show you how we fix it. Okay, so we're just going to continue to cut even. All the way down. Okay, remember the goal is to not cut all the way through, but if you happen to cut all the way through, whoops, it's okay. I'm going to show you how we fix that. So just keep on going, cut the rest of your snips in. Okay, so we're going to start with the larger piece, and we're going to put a little dot of glue right here, just a little tiny bit. You don't need a ton. And we're going to start rolling this in on itself. Now you notice we put the dot of glue on the folded edge, so, or on the edge where the glue is seamed. Okay, so the not folded edge. And now we're going to roll. We're not going to keep putting glue on this though, because it just gets bulky and it won't roll right. So we've got our glue that we started our roll with, and we're just going to keep rolling. Now we're keeping our edge flush to the rest of the roll. You don't want to get all spiral. You want to stay nice and straight. Okay, now I'm making it to the end of where I accidentally cut mine off. I'm going to put a dot of glue on that end piece. I'm going to continue to roll nice and straight, and I'm going to glue that down to my roll. And then I'm going to put another dot of glue right next to it, and I'm going to bring the piece that I accidentally cut off in, set it right next to that, and I'm going to continue to roll that piece until I reach the end, and then I'll put another dot of glue on that. And I'm going to secure that down and give it just a second to make sure that it's all nice and tight. And that is our first flower. And look, you can't even tell that I cut my felt in half accidentally. All right, so now for the next one, the peach one, we're going to cut our peach on a diagonal, which creates a little different of a flower. So to start this, again, folded edge to us. I'm going to cut on a diagonal, and I'm going to cut that piece right off, just like that. And that piece is junk. Now I'm going to snip down to the glue line, but not through, in equal snips with my scissor. And I'm going to make, this time I'm going to make them narrower, because I want this flower to look a little bit different. Now the diagonal cut is going to give it a different look as it is, but the narrowness of the petal will give it an even more different look. So we're just going to continue to do this all the way down the length of it. That last little corner off, so I'm going to go on and snip right on through, and then that piece is garbage. All right, now same as we did the first flower, we're going to put a dot of glue here. And we are going to start the roll. And then same as the first one, we're just going to continue to roll without adding more glue until we get to the very end. All right, I'm at my end. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a dot of glue there and secure that down. Hold it for a second. Okay, and here is that flower. All right. All right, so now for these, the little lilacs, same thing. We're gonna cut these straight and we're gonna cut these nice and narrow as well. Now this one's a little bit harder and a little bit easier all at the same time. It's a little easier because you have a really short distance to snip, but it's a little harder because you have such a short distance to snip. You don't wanna snip all the way through, you just wanna snip right to the glue. Whoops, snipped all the way through. No big deal. We're just gonna keep on snipping and we'll fix that at the end. Both ready. Whoops, I just snipped that again. That time was accidental. We're gonna go ahead and cut both and get both ready just in case we end up needing both of them. That way we don't have to take the time to do it later. Snipped it again. Okay, now for this one, we are going to take our wire, and you can straighten this however you want. You can leave it in the curve if it's in a curve, but we're going to start at the top of this, and we are going to first put a dot of glue on the end here. Remember your folds at the top and your glued edges at the bottom here. And we are going to put our wire in here, and we're going to move our wire over just a little bit so we can fold just a little bit of that over. You see that? Just a little bit rolled over that wire. Okay. Now this one, we have to glue as we go, but we just want a tiny bit of hot glue, which is sometimes hard to control. And now this one, because there's a lot less felt, it's a little bit harder to work with and you have bigger chances of getting hot glue on your hands. So be careful. But what you're gonna do is you're just gonna wrap the felt around the wire and you're gonna move down the wire as you wrap. So you're kind of spiraling down the wire, but you have to continue to put a little bit of hot glue along the edge of that felt, because that is what's sticking to the wire. Now, don't glue the whole entire thing because it will dry before you have time to spiral this. So only work about an inch at a time and just continue to roll it down the wire. Now, sometimes you'll see that sometimes you are gluing to the wire and sometimes you're actually gluing to the felt that you laid before this. Before that row or that roll. Okay, so you're just going to continue to work all the way down like that. Glue just an inch at a time. This is so cute. Such a cute flower. I definitely don't think you need both of those purples, but if you have some extra wire and you want to make 2 flowers, then you can make 2. All right, and I'm reaching the end of mine here, so I'm just going to continue to wrap that. And then I just want to make sure that I get that end secured in there and either stuck to the felt or stuck to the wire. And that is your lilac flower. And we got 1 flower left. So once again, I don't need the extra piece. All right, so you have 2 options of what you can do with this. And I'm only going to show you one because I only have 1 piece here. So you can either make a wavy cut or you can just make a simple spiral cut. I prefer the look of the wavy cut. So I'm going to cut mine wavy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in here with a small tail, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to make just like wavy cuts with my scissors. It's probably easier to show than explain. So here I am coming in and I'm just going to start waving my scissor, or actually I'm moving the felt, not my scissor. And as I move the felt around and I'm cutting, I'm just trying to keep I'm trying to keep about the same width here as I am all the way around, okay? So just try to keep that width about the same as you move into your spiral. So you can see my circle's getting smaller and smaller as I'm cutting away that outside edge, but I'm keeping just under 1/2 inch of felt there on the side. And I'm come all the way around, and that's where I'm going to end that. And then if I have any sharp outside edges where I made a very drastic curve or turn there, I will fix those. Okay, so we're going to start with the inside, the smallest part of the spiral, and we bring that up and we kind of tuck it onto the other part, the closest part. So we kind of flip it forward and then bring that over so we get kind of like a cone shape. And I'm going to put a little dot of glue right there because that's going to be just the start of that flower. Just like that. So you see it makes a little bit of a cone. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing all the rest of this in a rounded shape. Just going to fill it in. Now sometimes you have to make this kind of loose, and so the petals are kind of just hanging out there, but just start rolling it up. Don't put any more glue on it. We'll put glue on the back side to hold it all together when we get it how we want it. And feel free to cut some off if you don't want all of it, or if you want to tighten it up, you can tighten it up. But this is about what it should look like, and I'm actually really pleased with that, so I'm just gonna leave it. I am going to take a dot of glue. my tail there. And I'm going to secure that to that outside edge. And then I'm going to flip this over in my hand and see how this is all real loose. I'm going to put some glue back here, because if I don't, then the flower will lose its shape. So I'm just going to run a little bit of glue in a circle. I gotta push my glue stick in. And that glue will just kind of hold that flower together until I get it on my board. So just like that. Looks a little messy on the back, but we're not going to see the back. All right. Okay, so next we are going to cut some leaves out of our greens here. So leaves are pretty easy. We didn't give you a pattern. You can do this without a pattern. Excuse me. So you should be able to get at least 3 leaves out of each color, maybe 4. So I'm going to take my darker green and I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of come and curve up into a leaf shape. And then I'm going to come on the other side and bring it up and around to meet the top, just like that. And there is our first leaf. Now I want to make a couple of different sizes, so I'm going to try and monopolize how much, whatever I can out of my felt. So I flipped it around there. So there's another leaf, and then I'll come over here and do a couple more. So I did get 4 leaves out of that one, and then I'm going to come over here and get some leaves out of this different color green. Okay. So, all right, so now I'm going to take and I'm going to put a dot of glue where the flat side is, the flat edge, just a little dot of glue there. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to pinch that together. So that kind of forms that leafy shape there. Okay, I'm going to do that with all of them. Okay, so there are all of my leaves and all of my flowers. And we're going to bring our board back in front of us. And we're just going to position these flowers and leaves how we might like them. So spend a few minutes deciding on your placement of these. Remember, you don't have to use all the leaves. Just use what you want. Okay, I'm actually going to use all of my leaves because I really like them all in there. And now that I kind of know where everything's going to go, I'm going to pull them aside one at a time here, and I'm going to start gluing them in. So I'm just going to set this guy off to the side, and I'm going to glue these leaves in real quick. And I'm just putting a dot of hot glue on the back of them and then pressing them down into place. And you might have to hold it just for a second. And then I'm going to put that leaf or that flower right back on. So in order to glue that flower, because remember there's not much holding that flower together, we're going to run our hot glue around in a circle on the base of that. And then we're just going to tip that flower over and we're going to push it into place on top of those leaves. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other ones. We're going to just lift them off. And before I glue this pink one into place though, we're going to make sure that that purple flower is set because that wire is going to lay right underneath. So I kind of know where I want my pink and my aqua flower to go. So I'm going to lift them off and I'm going to press my leaves into place. Just wanted to make sure I didn't have that leaf up too high. I'm actually going to move it over so it's almost like it's part of the lilac one. I'm going to pull my lilac out of there. And I'm going to run a length of glue down the wire. And then I'm going to slide it underneath there and in there and press that down to the board. Now putting the other flowers on top will help hold that little booger in place. So we are going to go ahead and put on our blue flower. So same with the blue flower as we had to do with the peach. We're going to load up that back circle part with a lot of the hot glue. And we're going to flip it over and we're going to press that guy into place. And then with the pink, same thing. This guy's got some hot glue already holding it together. And we're going to press that into place. All right. Now, the last thing you can do is everybody got a little pearl with their kit. If you want to use the pearl, you can put the pearl in the center of any one of your flowers. I'm going to put it in the center of my pink flower. I'm just going to put a small dot of glue right there in the middle of the pink and press that pearl into place. All right. And that's it. There you have it. Let me raise this up a little bit so we can get it more into view here. But there is your string art with your felt flowers. Oh, this is so cute. I love it so much. All right, guys, I hope you had fun with this one. I hope you learned a few things, and maybe you'll try string art or felt flowers again if you haven't already. If you've been with us since the beginning, you've definitely done felt flowers. But string art is a first for the subscription box. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next month.